Congrats
Yeah,
to see him to this part in life. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Oh man, listen. So last week they do a clapping ceremony at the kids'
I
schools, right?
explained that to some of us who don't know. You mentioned that, and before you explained it to me, I didn't really know what that was.
Yeah, so I never heard of it either. I went to school in, let's call it an urban area. You just get out. You know what I'm saying? So, so I'm just being real with you.
Yeah. What's going on, everybody? We're Black Dad Unfiltered. My name is Carlos V. Spencer.
And I'm Coach Rod, and we're here to change the narrative on Black fathers.
No doubt. Black Dad Unfiltered, man. Good to see you again, man. What's been going on in the world of fatherhood of Rod?
Man, listen, that's a loaded question, man.
Yeah,
With three
yeah.
children, there's always something going on. But again, tomorrow's my son's graduation. I'm looking forward to that.
First
Family's in
child's
town.
graduation, right?
My first child, right? My
Yeah.
first child, he did his thing. But even with that, it's just, I'm realizing, your children are just different people, right? They're your babies when they grow. You know how they say, your kids turn you into heroes, then villains, and then all of a sudden humanize you. And I'm looking for the flip side of how we, as parents with our children. You know what I mean? When did they go from babies to adults? And I'm dealing with that transition. So as someone who's just always been involved, it's hard to deal with someone who's trying to keep you away a little bit, but it's not like they don't love you. It's so you wrestle with that a little bit. So it's part of the growth. This is why we're doing this, right? To just continuously grow and talk about the things that you don't hear a lot about. How do you deal with this? How do you deal when when you're no longer your kid's hero, so to speak?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're being replaced by some strangers to some extent.
Well, one black father to another black father, man. Congrats. That's a dope thing. When I was 19, 18, 19, when I graduated from high school, I've said it before, I believe another one of our episodes, my father was no longer living. Right. So to see you there for your son at his graduation and for him to be able to have you there at his graduation, congrats. To see him to this part in life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, man, listen, so last week they do a clapping ceremony at the kids' schools.
I explained that to some of us who don't know. You mentioned that, and before you explained it to me, I didn't really know what that was.
Yeah, so I never heard of it either. I went to school in, let's call it an urban area. You just get out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just being real with you.
Yeah.
But in this particular school, the kids start from like the 10th floor of the school, and they lace the staircases, and these kids, the seniors are just walking down from the top of the school to the very bottom out to the front. And the other students, the underclassmen and stuff like that, are just clapping for them as they kind of go out. And on in the main floor with the lobby are the parents, right? And the kids are just making their way down the stairs. And I'm a dad with my camera. I'm trying to record and take pictures at the same time. And to see my son, because he's did it, all the hard work. I'm an athlete, so he was, play sports and school, and to see all the hard work, and the teachers were just hugging him, and you saw all the love people had for your child.
Right.
Man, listen, I was cool. I did my thing.
You held it together.
I held it together until I didn't.
That's good. I held it together
until I didn't, man.
So that's dope, man.
Yeah. So
for fathers, I commend you. Those who listening, those who watching. Listen. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted. Those moments that we have with our children. Hear from me, a person like myself, who I just said, I didn't have my father. He wasn't living when I graduated. It was a big thing to me, not at the moment, but when I got older, just like, wow, my father wasn't there just because he wasn't on this earth. So don't take these things for granted. Don't take these things for granted. And I love that you had that experience with your son. And I love that your son had that experience with his father as well. Today on Black Dad Unfiltered, our topic is, how does marriage benefit Black men? Ooh. Ouch. Whoa, man. Right. We going there already, huh? We going there. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
how does
marriage... I'm a little scared.
Say it again?
I'm a little scared, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna ask you some questions, so maybe I can get out of it. How does marriage benefit Black men. That's our overall title. Thank you for chiming in. Thank you for those who are listening and watching, those you've been sharing, those you've been commenting, those you've been following. Please follow us on all social media. Hit your comments, hit your likes. And if this benefits you, share this information out, because we believe that it will benefit somebody else's life, to benefit the life of Black fathers, Black sons, different communities, cultures, and families. So in talking about how does marriage benefit Black men, we're going to go to this clip. All right, there's a clip here that talks about the power of marriage and some things that come along with it, and gives us a view on it. And I want us to tackle this clip. It's by Nuri Muhammad. So Nuri Muhammad, I've seen this clip some time ago. I think it kind of went viral a little while ago. And so he talked about marriage specifically. So let's watch this clip. Go ahead and listen in here, and then we're going to chop it up a little bit about it.
The most important decision you will ever make in your life after choosing to believe in God is the mate you choose to spend the rest of your life with. Your mate will either inspire you to grow into your greatness, or they'll confine you to complacency. They'll either be your other half, or they'll make you half of yourself. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, like, a good relationship will make you more youthful and bring out the best in you, and a bad one will age you prematurely and bring out the worst. So choose wisely.
All right, Coach Rod, we see a man talking about the power of marriage. I like what he said. I was going to wait a little bit later, but I want to bring it up even now. I like what he said, because marriage for a lot of people within their religion is the second biggest decision that you'll ever make in your life. And many people don't frame it that way, or see it that way, or understand that that's a big decision. It's the number 2 decision. What would you say to that? Or what would you say to anything else that he kind of pulled out when he was talking about the powers of marriage, how marriage could hurt or harm someone, and to be very careful when you're choosing marriage?
So, one, I think I wrote, I like to write stuff down.
Yeah.
And when I started breaking it down, it was almost two opposing factions when it comes to marriage.
Okay.
Right. But the thing that he said that was so subtle is when you choose.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I said when he talked about it was, okay, when we first talk about marriage or your mate, you have to be careful on who you choose, because the outcome can have 2 opposing outcomes.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of people blame marriages. It's really, who are you when you chose this? What were you thinking when you chose this? Because
who were you when you chose this? That's a powerful statement.
You know what I mean? Because you chose your mate.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you listen carefully, when you choose your mate, when you make this conscious decision, right, understand with your decision and your decision-making process and your selection process and your selection criteria and your input to the selection, like where your mindset is at.
Yeah.
We got 2 opposing views that can come out of here. It can inspire, it can confine. Right. This is what he said. It can make you young, it can make you old. Right. What the other said, he said it can be your other half, or it can make you half of yourself.
One thing he said too, I like, and you keep going, it can inspire you to greatness, or it can bring you to complacency.
It can confine you
a lot of dualities in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at with this. When he said that, I loved it, because he wasn't blaming a gender. He was saying, when you come into this union, understand what can come out of this, and cautioning us to think, right? And this is why I love what we're doing and what we have in these conversations, because how are we thinking about marriage?
Right.
The title is What's the Benefit of Marriage? It's not saying what's in it for me. What is the benefit of marriage? So, when I saw it, I was just like, all right, cool, because I've lived it. You know what I mean? I've lived it. So it's just like, okay, how do we talk about this in a way that makes sense now? How do we translate this? Because, everyone is afraid of marriage.
Yeah. And right. I know what you're saying. One thing he did say too was, then when he ended that whole statement, which was a power pack statement, if you like I said, watch the clip or listen to it, he said, choose wisely. So he gave a lot of dualities. He talks about some pluses, some minuses. He talks about how marriage could benefit. He talked about how it could be a detriment based upon, like you said, your choice. And at the end of it, almost an exclamation point to his statement, he says, choose wisely. One thing that I remember my grandfather always said too. Here we go, right?
Here we go.
I got it. Come on. I got to give a Shannon Sharp in there, right? I'm writing a book called My Grandfather Said, because there's so many sayings, like, and then my aunt's writing a book called Things My Father Said. So we try to see who's going to write the book first.
Listen, when you write that book, we got to sell it on the website. Shameless plug, www.blackdadunfiltered.com.
Come on now. Come on with it. So my grandfather always said that marriage will multiply your blessings and divide your hardships. Again, it will multiply the blessings and divide the hardships. And I said, wow, man. Again, I'm puzzled. You know, being a young man, like, where do you come up with all this stuff? But at the same time, I've kept that with me in my marriage when I was married, and even after I will be married again. I'm going to take that into the choice, the wise choice, as you stated, that I'm going to make. So it multiplies the blessings, meaning that there's somebody there with you to share the great things. I've seen people, and I believe a lot of people who are listening to us and who are watching have seen people who are quote unquote famous or have a lot of money or have a lot of stuff, right? One thing I've noticed with a lot of these people, that stuff doesn't mean too much once you've had a lot of stuff for a long time. Who was Iron Mike Tyson that said $5 million is a lot of money to people who ain't never had $5 million. Now, give me the money, I'll take it and let me see. But I understood what he was saying, because he was making the point that it's not everything. And he was making the point that once you have it, it really doesn't mean as much. I can prove to any listener, anybody watching right now, whatever new thing you wanted about 5 years ago, it probably doesn't have the same value that it has now. Maybe it's something that you did like, but we get a car, a few years later, we want a new car. We get some shoes, some years later, we want some new shoes. We get some jewelry, 10 years later, maybe the jewelry doesn't mean as much as it did before. My point is, when you have stuff just to yourself and with nobody to share it with, I think it loses some of its value. And when you have somebody to share this thing with, it multiplies the blessings. When you have a companion, when you have a spouse, when you have somebody, I think a part of that benefit to your life is the things that I now have. I can speak for me. The things that I have and the things that I went after meant a little bit more, because I wasn't just going after it for me or to see it be able to help and bless somebody else. I think men specifically, that we have something innate, that there is a desire for us to provide. We're built to provide. We're built to do things. We're built to be protection. The word house band is actually husband. So it means the band that binds around the house. So we're built that way. So we find satisfaction. I believe most, I'm not going to say I'm speaking for all, but we're talking unfiltered. We find some satisfaction in providing for other people. So I do believe half of that statement that my grandfather said, you multiply the blessings. The other part is you divide the hardships. You have somebody there in your life that you don't have to experience this hard time by yourself. You have somebody that's by your side, that's going through what you're going through, and they have something that they're able to go through with you as well. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It definitely makes sense. But I think in everything you said, especially starting with your grandfather's quote, the part that I want to bring us back to, because I think it adds to this, is to choose wisely. How do you make wise decisions if you don't know anything? Right? Think about that, because the key thing wasn't make a good decision. It was make a wise decision. Wisdom is the application of knowledge. So if you were without knowledge, then what? How can you make a wise decision? Right? And I think I'm going to bring this up right now. Because I was thinking about this when we talked. I said, okay, I went back 3 decades, and I started saying to myself, in each decade, what I wanted or what my perception of marriage was evolved. Right? 3 decades ago, it was, I want somebody who I can enjoy my life with. 2 decades ago, I want somebody that I can be vulnerable around. A decade ago, it became, I want to be with someone that I can be my most authentic self with, that I can love myself fully in front of them. Now, that doesn't mean each one replaced the other. It just means as I grew and I had more knowledge and more wisdom, each one enveloped the other. Yeah, I want to enjoy my life with you, but it doesn't stop there. Yeah, I want to be vulnerable with you, but it doesn't stop there. I have to be able to do all these things and still be who I am, right? And then I started now more recently saying, and this will allow me to be the fullness of who I am, and allow you to be the fullness of who you are. Because when we speak, it's not just from a man's perspective, this show is called Black Dad Unfiltered, but this speaks to anybody, any color, any gender, you know what I mean? And so it brings me back to, so if we actually seek knowledge and wisdom, if we, I guess, talk to people who've been married, listen to them, right? Try to understand what this life really is, because the marriage to me is the one thing that can break you without ever physically touching you. Right? Wow. Right? It can break you mentally, right? It only takes but a spouse's few words to make you fly as high to the moon and inspire you, and to break you down to when you question who you are. And this is evident. We've seen this. So when the stakes are this high, seeking knowledge is so critical to me. And then because you've done that work, that's why I actually believe, because I believe in the institution of marriage.
Right.
To that point, because you're both operating in your truest self. You're not you're not lessening the other. You're bringing 100% of yourselves to become 100% together.
Yeah.
I definitely see the hardships being divided, because they're not really that hard anymore when you're not alone.
Right.
Right. And the opportunities becoming abundant. Because what is it? What's the famous African proverb? Because now I'm going to drop it back to you, since you like to bring your grandfather into this every show we do. And I appreciate it, though. You want to what? You want to go someplace. You want to go someplace fast? Go alone.
Right. That's it.
You want to go someplace far? Go with others. Right.
That's it.
You know what I mean? So, but you dropped that good one on me. You definitely dropped that good one on me. But that choose wisely just kept on. And I think you and I can speak to the impact. Like, we have hindsight,
which is 2020.
Hindsight's 2020. But why did I make this decision?
Right.
Right. Why? Because I firmly believe two good people can get married and have a bad marriage. I firmly believe that. Two good people, two good hearts, two honest, two faithful, two loyal people can be together and a marriage be horrible. Right? Why are we making these decisions? But, when he said that, I wrote it down, man. I just was like, there's two sides to this coin. And really and truly, not just you alone, but you play a huge part on how this coin is going to drop when we flip it in the air. Is it going to be heads? Is it going to be tail? Well, that's the matter of how you want to look at this, how you want to decide this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So and even speaking to some of these benefits, right? The title of even today's episode, how does marriage benefit Black men? I want to talk about some of the benefits overall. I want to break into some of the benefits for Black men specifically. But speaking of some of those benefits for maybe some of the women who are listening, and even some of the men, I want to put this out to you as well. I've had a lot of conversations with men and even some with women that I believe that sometimes, some, not all, not with a broad stroke, some women don't know the power that they have. So when we talk about the benefits of marriage, I believe a benefit is what a woman can help a man to do. There's a lyric from a Donny Hathaway song that says, whoever wrote this, whether it be Donny Hathaway or somebody else, you got to go through something. He said, I can be anything that you demand. I can be king of this old world. Or I can be a tiny grain of sand. Woo. Who wrote this? Because whoever wrote this went through something. And in that lyric, in that line, you hear a man saying, I can be anything that you demand. To your point, marriage could break you down without even touching you. I believe it also can build you up without touching you.
Absolutely.
I believe you spoke to that as well. I can be king of this old world. I can be king if you demand it. I can be a tiny grain of sand. Some women, I believe, don't know the power that they have, and they can actually break down and hurt someone. But here's a benefit. A benefit is you can demand of your man to be a king, and nobody can get your man to be what you can get your man to be. That's a benefit.
Wow.
I've said this in counseling sessions, jokingly, but serious. If a man's juggling one ball and he said, look, baby, I'm juggling one ball. She said, baby, look, you go ahead. He gonna go get two. And he gonna juggle two and say, hey, baby, look what I'm doing now. She gonna say, you go ahead. He's gonna continue to be more of what she demands for him to be. Nur Muhammad, it was in another clip that I saw him. I believe he was sitting down with Nick Cannon. And he said that when you marry a man, you don't get the man of your dreams, but the man of your dreams is inside the man.
Wow.
He said you can reverse it as well, but we're speaking about the benefits of men, of the benefit of marriage to Black men. A benefit, again, is I believe that woman can speak to something into that man and can pull out the dream that she has for him and the dream that she sees in him, and to make him and mold him. Who was it? Dame Dash. I remember I saw one in an interview. He said, get rid of all these dudes and find yourself a good woman. I said, talk, Dame.
Listen, man. I like what you're saying. I'm gonna take a different approach,
Come
right?
on.
Because this is speaking from my heart. And one moment, and we're gonna flip this on his head a little bit soon. I'm gonna flip it on his head a little bit. But however, I believe most men are not whole until they have their partner. Because remember, most men, because of the way we're wired, we are always walking around guarded. You know, when a man walks in the streets, he's never frolicking, right? He's determined. He's on a mission. He has enemies to the left, to the right, in front of him, and behind him. A man is always walking in these streets guarded. It's in the presence, and I believe this, of a woman that you trust, that trusts you, that you are able to be free. And when you are free, potential is unlocked. This is what they say when your partner is your vacation, right? When you go to your woman, that's my vacation. That means I've escaped the entire pressures of this world. And in this place, I find rest. You get what I'm saying? I find recovery. And now I'm prepared to go back out there. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
So I don't believe we're incomplete, but I believe we're not whole, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't,
say it again. You gotta say it again. It makes sense, but you gotta say it again.
I don't believe we're incomplete, but I don't believe we're whole until we have that partner.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
I do.
Because you got to understand, man, listen, it's that guardedness as men. Think about this. If you really think about to when even your whole life, we guard our feelings. We don't let people know what we're feeling. We don't want to be soft. All this your mind is constantly working. Where is your peace? You get what I'm saying? This is why they say the woman is your peace. It's not that she's not talking. It's just that when you're in her presence, you can let your guard down. She is your sanctuary. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So to me, when we talk about this, and once I'm at peace, once I have a place where I can recover, because we both former athletes, the only way to get stronger is to rest.
That's it.
Right? You need recovery to let the tissues heal. Because now the tissues are reformed and built for the new weight, and then you pressure it again. But if we're always walking around here unable to rest, then we're constantly being battered. We're being chipped away till there's nothing left of us. But I believe when you are in that relationship and you find her and you've made that right choice and you accept her for who she is, she accepts you for who you are. This is why I went back to the whole purpose of being authentically you. When you can be yourself, all of it, man, who can stop you? At that moment, who can stop you? You don't care what this person says, what that person says. You don't see obstacles, because to your point, you found your source of strength on earth. So
that's a benefit.
Go ahead,
that's
man.
Added benefit, man. We into the thick of it. It reminds me of this scene from the movie 300. You remember the movie 300?
Who doesn't, man?
Listen, so
I'm from the hood, man. Come on, son. This is Sparta.
This is Sparta, right? And my man, this ain't what I'm going to, but I love the scene from the movie when he talks to they brought some other people from this other. You remember they brought them from the other island, and he was like, "You only have this many? Like, this is all the warriors you got?" And he was like, "What's your profession?" I mean, it's like, "I'm a farmer." "What's your profession?" "I'm a cook." "What's your profession?" "Sparta." "What is your profession?" Oh, my man was like, "We brought more soldiers than you." In that movie, beautiful scene, man, that speaks to these benefits, that speaks to what you were saying. He was in the room with his wife. He's the king. And she says to him, "What can I do for you, my king?" And she sees that he's troubled because there's a decision that he has to make. And to everybody else, he's this strong king. To everybody else, he got it together. Come on now. To everybody else, he's showing there is no weakness. Everybody looks to him for strength. But when he's alone with his wife, she sees that there's something that's bothering him. And she speaks to the strength of him in a place where nobody else can speak to him. So after she asks him what's going on, he tells her what's going on. He tells her I have to make this decision. And he asks his piece, like you said, he asks her, what should I do? Now, after she affirms him, builds him up, and tells him what he should do in the comfort of his room, his bedroom with his wife, he goes right back out and he whips everybody out. Again, this moment of weakness, his woman could have said, "Why are you being so weak?"
Man, listen, I'm gonna cut you off there.
Go ahead.
Because you used the word weakness, and we talked about this on another show.
Yeah.
In his moment of weakness is where he found his greatest strength.
Listen.
This is what I'm talking about. We're gonna talk about some of the cons, but when you make the wise decision, when you understand why you chose this person, when you understand why you committed yourself to this person, and when you understand for the first time you don't have to be strong. It's a funny way of making you stronger, right? Someone just spoke to me today and said, "You seem like someone that if someone doesn't like you, it doesn't affect you." I said, "It won't. What you feel about me never changes how I feel about myself. I'm at peace." You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it allows me to step into rooms unapologetic and not afraid, and I can speak my truth. You get what I'm saying? I'm going to give it back to you. And when you come back, I'm going to flip it on its head. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to ask you. Right? What is marriage then? Because we went into marriage, but we never actually talked about what it is. Because I want to speak from a very grounded level. I want to speak like that we speak in the barbershop. But I'm going to pass this back to you and see
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. So I'll go back here. Then you go ahead and have at it. We're going to have a good time with this for sure. And I do want to speak to some of the specifics of Black men as well. And I'm going to get to that as well. When we talk about the pros, we talk about the benefits. It's the title of this episode, right? I'm literally going to the oldest trick in the book in Genesis. Let's go back to the beginning. The law first mentioned, which is a law that states that when you hear something mentioned the first time, that was the intent for it. So when you hear something mentioned in the Bible the first time, most times that was the intent for it to be used, the way it was to be used. Well, God said that everything was good. Day 1, it was good. Day 2, he created, it was good. Day 3, it was good. Day 4, it was good. He said everything was good until he got to man and said it's not good for man to be alone.
Oh.
First time he mentioned it, that it was not good, is when man was created. All man, we're not going to dive too far into it. I can't chase the rabbit because we know he created male and female, created he, them in one. But when he created man and he was by himself, he was all one. He was all alone. God looked at man and says, it's not good for him to be alone. And if God,
collection plate, somebody pass me a collection plate. Minister Los is preaching. Go ahead.
Listen, if God, I sold cars years ago, right? There was a BMW when it first came out with the push button start. And so pretty much it was a computer on wheels. And so they changed the vehicle. They revamped everything. And so a lot of the older clientele were upset because they couldn't figure out how to get this car to move. It was a computer on wheels. The guy who sold the BMWs in our department, he was in charge of highline vehicles. When this vehicle came out, it took him 20 minutes to figure out how to put the car in reverse. Now, he's not an older clientele. He's a person who works in sales, who works on these vehicles. He had to go to the manufacturer to find out how this vehicle actually works to be able to get the vehicle to go in reverse to do what the vehicle was designed to do. What am I saying? God said it's not good for man to be alone. God is the manufacturer. He made us. He created us. And if he says it's not good for us to be alone, there's got to be something to that. Right? It's not good for man to be all alone, to be all one, which goes back to what you said earlier, that the benefit of having someone in your life is that you aren't by yourself. But here it is. I'm going to go out even a little further, whether it be the husband, the wife, the man, or the woman. The benefit of having somebody in your life is so that you can be there for somebody else. Because a lot of times we look at the benefit as, oh, this is going to benefit me. But in this stage, like what you said earlier, for me, in this stage of my life, I'm looking to see how I can benefit somebody else. And I'm looking for somebody else who is looking to see how they can benefit me. So I'm not looking for the number one thing for me is how is this person going to benefit me. Although that's great, I'm looking to see how I can benefit them, and I believe they can benefit me. And again, it's not good for us to be alone.
Well, thank God you're older than me because I ain't there yet. But you know what I mean? I get it, and I'm really not there yet, right? Because I'm not where you're at. Doesn't mean we're further ahead or further back. I am really stuck on. We have to be whole. We have to be because to me, I go back to our identities being stripped. We have to be whole. And that's the benefit. You can finally be whole. You can finally be, because remember I said you're not incomplete. You can finally unlock who you're meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you are who you are today. You are, you know what I mean? That's why I said you're not incomplete. You are who you are today. Mm-hmm. But there's an intention and a purpose for us. There's an unlocked potential that people see in us. And until you're in the right environment, and purpose is tied to me, being in the right environment, which means your family,
yes,
you have a hard time unlocking yourself. But I'm gonna bring you back to what we talk about, what most people talk about. Yo, listen, I don't want to get married. We can't just sit here preaching the benefit of it. We got to talk about what marriage actually is. And I'm glad you brought up the Bible, right? Because not everybody's a church goer, and that's fine. Because there's two opposing views to this for me. There is marriage as you define it. We're in the United States. In the United States, marriage is a legal contract.
Mm-hmm.
Marriage is a legal contract that allows legal protection to each other, to children, right? And then you got spiritual marriage, right? Which is a covenant and a promise to each other, which forms a union and a bond that our faith is complete, that who we are will be complete. So we got to talk about the differences, because I'll be honest with you. You talked about you will get married again. I don't know if I will get married in the same fashion I got married before.
I love the honesty of it.
Yeah, I don't
break
know
that down. What do you mean by in the same?
I don't know if I want to invite the government into my union.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? I don't like, and I wrestle with this. This is just honesty. I wrestle with this.
I love it
because I don't want to. I'm not afraid of anything, but I'm also, why involve this? Like, because it does become a legal contract. It does have legal benefits and it has legal restrictions. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Could I be married to you? And I'm asking you, could I be married to you? Could I have a religious ceremony? And would that constitute that we are now married? If I've committed myself to you, if I've created this bond? Because I can go into the different religions and talk about how they view. I can talk about how Islam views it. I could talk about Hinduism and the lifelong bond. I could talk about Christianity, which is a government between you and God and your spouse. It's a threefold cord, I think is right.
Threefold cord, yep.
Yeah, threefold cord, right? I can talk about what is it? You have Buddhism, right? And so when the religious, it's always about the union. That's what the focus is on the union and the ability to actualize yourself spiritually and become one, right? And operate in fullness. And then we could talk about the legality part of, we're going to go to City Hall and sign these papers, and now we're legally married. This is why I said, when you go back to it, wise decision. How are you making these choices? This is why I told you about, like, when I went through the 3 decades, why did I marry you? Or why do I want to marry you? Think about this. And I don't want to hold the floor, but think about this. Like, as men, to reap the benefits of almost anything, you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
Right? But the reality of it is you could put a lot of work into something that is bottomless, which means your work has no impact. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like going into the ocean trying to shovel water out. What is we doing? You can do it for 16 hours. You're not making a dent. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I want to hear how you feel about that. Because you brought in, Genesis.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
now I want to answer the question specifically, because I don't want the listeners to think I'm dancing around, because it's political season. I want to hear which question specifically, so I can make sure I'm answering.
So, do you believe marriage is a legal contract? Like, if you were to get married again,
yes,
would you be comfortable getting married in a religious ceremony and not signing a marriage certificate?
I would not. I would not. One
Why?
scripture comes to mind is obey the laws of the land. And if I'm looking to be married with somebody and we're calling it a marriage, I'm going through a marriage ceremony and I'm going through the ceremony within my beliefs, having a pastor, a minister to go through those vows that I'm taking before God and before man, which I'm taking even serious. And to me, that's more binding than the actual contract, but to obey the laws of the land as well, I'm going to complete that thing. So for me specifically, I'm going to go through that ceremony. I'm also going to go through the contractual standpoint to make sure that the marriage is bound with the laws of the land and that the marriage is bound to the actual vows that I took. That's me specifically.
So let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
I hate to do this to you,
No, come on.
So let's say you live in Montana. Let's say you live in Montana.
Okay.
Montana is a common law state. You don't have to get. You don't have the laws of the lands are different. Then what?
That's Montana. I don't live in Montana. I don't live in Montana. But I'll say for me still, the point that you made about marriage being a contract, to me, and based upon what I believe,
yeah, sure,
it's easy to walk away from something when there is no contract than when you do have a contract. So here's my point. With a marriage or two people who have just been together and say you've gone through that, but it's not a legal binding contract and you're not legally quote unquote married. I believe, and not to say this is going to happen, but I believe one day if it gets too rough, gets too hard, gets too difficult, whatever it gets to be, I'm going to walk away from this. I believe it's easier to walk away from something. If you and I had something together, I'm like, I don't even want to do business with Rod no more. There's no contract in place. I'm done with this. But if there's a contract in place,
shut your mouth.
If there's a contract in place, then we have to go through proper procedures to be able to dissolve that contract going through a court. We can't just say we're done with this. If I'm going to go through all of that, I'm going to make sure that this is what I want to do. And somewhere in that process or in the conversation before reaching that point, if I'm not looking to go through all of that, it's going to make me look back at the business. It's going to make me look back at having a conversation. It's not as easy to walk away from. So I think I would work harder at staying within the contract because if I'm done to that extent, then I'm done. If I got to go through all this, if I have a contract in place, I'm like, all right, is it really worth breaking this contract? All right. Is it really that bad? I do believe that without the contract in place, as well as in marriage, it's easier to say, I'm done with this. I'm done with this.
So that's a good point. I can see it. It's valid, right?
Yeah.
But that also breaks down. That brings me back to step one. Did you make a wise choice, right?
That is the good question.
Because technically, the covenant does the same thing. If you're in Christianity, again, it's a threefold, right? In Christianity, it's threefold. I think in Islam, it's a social and spiritual connection. And so if you're governed by your faith, this legality means nothing. But then again, me probably even having a conversation, why you care so much about the legality? What are you afraid of? Do you want to walk away easy? That might be what people are thinking. But I'm thinking to myself, not for taking the government out, but do we really understand the purpose of marriage? Because when we hear benefits, the part that scares me when I hear people keep saying benefits, it's the default is what's in it for me. How does this make me better?
Yeah.
And how does this add to my life? Remember, one of the phases 3 decades ago, I forgot that we can build together. Let's build. This is the language you hear. I want to have someone I can experience life with, someone I can build with, someone I can share my wins with. These are all things that I hear, which is why I said I hear you, Los. But for me, all that is a byproduct of this is a place where I can be who I am and I can love someone for who they are. This is to me, marriage at its core is where love exists and the contract and the commitment that comes with love, because love is an emotion. The commitment with it can actually exist and flourish and grow. It is an environment. You get what I'm saying? Where both people grow together, and this is where the unforeseen happens. So that's why I always say when I think about the benefits of marriage, I think about the intrinsic benefit is you actually become better.
Right.
Being with someone, you become better, and by becoming better, everything is better. You know what I mean? Like I grew up. We both grew up in urban environments. Man, listen, I've never looked at the sun and been like, oh, the sun feels good. In a good relationship, I was like this, man, it's nice outside. I said, almost slapped myself. Man, why are you talking like this? But the truth was, water tastes better.
Yeah.
Sky is bluer, right? Not because they did anything, it's because who they are allowed me to be this.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why I said when we talked about this, I wrestled with this a lot. Like, okay, we could talk about some of the clear benefits. You live longer. This the scientific studies, right?
It is.
You live longer.
That's
the
true.
ability to build is there. When you have two people, depending if you have a traditional family or a modern family, you are able to build wealth and your legacy when there's two of you. But for me, I really want to talk about to the human experience, because we have friends and people are hurting and people are getting married and getting divorced left and right, and what you're seeing is sometimes the divorces are not what we call ugly. It's just people have outgrown each other, and that's why I said when we played that first clip, the wise choice. I tell anybody, be who you are, just continue to grow.
Yeah,
because I'm gonna continue to grow, and if you don't grow and I grow, we just grow apart. You know what I mean? But anyway, I'm going on tangents.
No, that's good. It's a good tangent, though, man. I say this, and you said something true. We're gonna keep it unfiltered, right? I was gonna say funky, but unfiltered. That's a better statement. We're gonna keep it unfiltered. There are a lot of responsibilities that come with marriage, and the benefits probably shouldn't be the predominant thing that you're focused on if you're mature. But I do believe that if you know all the responsibilities and obligations that come with marriage, I do believe some benefits should come with it as well.
And listen,
because if I'm looking to do this and I'm gonna bring on all this stuff, I'm looking for this to benefit me as well.
Listen, see, when you frame it like that, I'm with it, because we didn't frame it like that. We didn't say what are the responsibilities with marriage, and therefore the benefits, right? But when we frame it as this is, and that's wisdom. I honestly believe that's a form of wisdom and maturity. This is the benefit that comes with it. But what is my responsibility? What is my commitment? When we talk again to reap benefits, what is it? You reap what you sow. You get what I'm saying? And now if we're going to get into the scripture, and I ain't been in front of a mic for a while, but we're going to do what we do, right? To reap good fruit, you require good soil.
That's it.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I first have to start identifying what is good soil. So for me to identify good soil, I have to now understand what are the different structures of soil, right? What can my seed grow into if I plant it here? What do I have to feed it? So this is why I love what you said about responsibility and the wisdom is what is required of me, right? And what am I looking for in her, right? And there's two parts. This is why I said when he said this duality is two parts. What is required of me? What do I need from her? And vice versa. What is required of her? What is required of me? And if we can go in there with some level of emotional disconnect and some practicality, understand we're going to argue. Are we at a place? I remember we talked about emotional intelligence, and are we at a place where we can manage those emotions to push through? Because it's good, like any tree, any plant, the soil got to break. It got to break for something beautiful to come out of this bad boy.
Got to.
You know what I mean? And so I don't think we can do all this in one show. But you get where I'm getting at. Like, I hope anybody who's listening hears us talking and really talking this through, because we're not preaching at anybody. We're just talking from experiences,
right?
And the questions we have,
and trying to make a pretty bow on it. Look, I went through a marriage that didn't work. Right? It'll be easy for me to say there are no benefits. Be sour about it, but I don't believe that. I do believe there are some benefits to it.
So I'm gonna put you in a tough spot, and feel free to say no.
Okay.
And without talking about the marriage.
Yes.
If you can go back and you can talk to yourself before making the decision, not questioning the person. What information would you have looked at? What questions would you have been willing to ask anybody that you were thinking about marriage that would allow you to make a decision that you felt like would have changed any relationship you're in? You know what I mean? Like, if we can go back to hindsight and say, what would I look at?
I can give you that all day. I would say, is this the person that's going where I'm going? And what I mean by that is, I firmly believe you shouldn't marry for where you are. You should marry for where you're going. And I would have to ask myself, or I would have to view this and say, am I marrying for where I'm going in life? Or am I marrying for where I am in life? I believe that that's a decision that I will go on and say that many young people make without the proper wisdom, like we said, and insight to look at this decision that you're making and say, am I marrying for where I'm going? Now, the person that you're marrying, I'm not saying it has to be 20 years down the road, but are they on that same trajectory? You said something very powerful. Are we going to grow together or grow apart? Right? Is this person going to grow with me? Of course, you don't have a crystal ball. You can't see everything, but that is the type of decision I would make going back.
So this is why I realize women, and I know we want to wrap this up, but this is why I know women, when I see, well, not women, sorry, I want to rephrase it, take my time, gather myself. I understand why women like ambition now. Because they're looking at the potential, and I don't want to speak for women, but I can assume they're looking at your desire to grow and your innate motivation to be something more. And when we say grow together, we don't got to grow in parallel. We just got to grow, right?
Yes.
So if I can answer my own question, if I can go back, this goes back to, I'm going to keep repeating myself, broken record. Who am I? Mm-hmm. And what comprises me today?
Yes.
Like what experiences? Because I'm making decisions on my experiences. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And am I in a place that I can make a commitment to someone, or am I still in need of repair?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And because again, I believe you're always going to try to fill gaps in your childhood, and you're going to put that on somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I said. I need somebody who can give me an environment that allow me to grow.
That's good. Yeah.
I ain't gonna put it on you. But anyway, listen, man. This is why we're doing this, Los. We're gonna have more episodes.
It is. We're gonna close on this. Not even a whole bunch of time. Give me one. I'll give you one. Go and close it out. A benefit of marriage for Black men specifically. We don't got to go off into it, but give me one thing you would say is a benefit for marriage specifically for Black men.
Peace.
Mm-hmm.
The scripture says it.
Yeah,
it's one of the most prized possessions in this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Finding the virtuous woman, finding that rare woman that's right for you,
mm-hmm.
can give you peace in a world designed to be chaotic.
Yeah. Well, I would say nothing too far from what you say for Black men specifically. I'm not trying to give a woe is me speech, but we know I'm speaking as a Black man. I'm speaking to a Black man, my brother. There's a lot of stuff that we deal with in this world that is not peaceful. There's a lot of stuff that we deal with in this world that is chaotic. There are a lot of things in this world that meet us at face value. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is they see us as Black men, and the world will treat you that way as a Black man. And so I agree with you on that space and that statement of peace, specifically for Black men. We deal with so much in this world. And I'll say this, an older Black man, he passed on, man. He said, man, I'll kill a brick for that woman. And when he said that, it meant so much. I believe what he was saying, if you unwrapped it, I deal with so much in this world. I ain't going to deal with that with my woman. And so I'm going to protect that woman, and I'll kill a brick for her. I'm Carlos V. Spencer, man, Black Dad Unfiltered. This has been a beautiful episode.
I'm Coach Rod. Tune in every second and fourth Thursday of the month for a new episode. Let's go. Let's grow. Let's get it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's grow. Let's grow.